Hey guys, Dan Blewett here, and I want to relay another mental training tip for baseball, and I want to do this from the philosophical perspective because if you don't know, my double major in college was philosophy and psychology. So my background is kind of varied, but I like to take a lot of the lessons I learned in school and apply them to the baseball field, and I definitely got to do that in the couple different years where I studied both not only Taoism and a lot of the Far East Asian philosophy, but we specifically studied in a couple classes philosophy of sport and philosophy of the Asian martial arts. And so and there's a ton of stuff there, and it's all amazing. So I highly recommend. There's lots of books, and they're mostly all from, again, martial arts studies, but like the samurai. The mental training was so important for those guys staying alive and having fluid action, which in baseball as a pitcher, in hitting as well, I think to a slightly lesser extent, in golf to a tremendous extent, and also in, what's the other one? In kicking and football. These are athletes where you have a lot of downtime and you can easily let your brain get between yourself and your action, right? So you have a stimulus, so a guy swings a sword at you, you have to have an immediate response. And if your brain gets in between there and says, oh God, I'm afraid, like I gotta get my sword or I'm gonna die, samurai knew that they could not try to consciously control their actions, and they could not survive on a battlefield without really being fluid and without conscious thought. So they try to keep what they call an unfettered mind, uncluttered by all the other thoughts, consequences, fear, all those different things. And so the tip I want to kind of elaborate on today, and I know we always harp on the idea of positive thinking, but in prep to go out to pitch or in prep to go out to hit, it can sometimes be easy to meditate on the negative consequences, because when you do that, you'll have basically lived through them, and you can kind of see your response, and then you can kind of control your response in practice, and then when you get out there, it's no big deal. So let me give you an example. Obviously with the samurai, everything was life or death, right? So when they get out there, if they're nervous and they're fearful of their own death, they're gonna probably be killed, and they talk about this over and over and over in different books. If they fear the sword, they're going to be cut down by it. So basically, their goal is to meditate on their own death. They see themselves losing in battle. They see themselves getting torn to pieces and all that gruesome stuff. They see their own death. They meditate on it over and over and over, so that when they're out on the battlefield, it's almost like they've already died. Like they're not afraid of that because they know what it feels like, because they've sat and visualized it so many times that, again, they've already been there. They've already died, essentially. So then when they're out on the battlefield, they're not worried about what it's going to be like or about what might happen if the other guy gets him. So the lesson you can apply that to baseball is, we all get nervous when bases are loaded and we got to make a big pitch. Bases are loaded, no one out, and you can see even at the big leagues. Still saw recently in a postseason game, guys get nervous and they no longer pitch with aggressiveness. They no longer pitch with the normal fluidity that they usually have, and they get hit hard because of it. You can see them being timid. And again, in battle, like especially in sword play, any little bit of timidity would be end of your life. So I would do this in my career. I would sit down, and again, it's not. There's a balance between being positive and being negative. This wasn't being negative. I just sat down, and once in a while, maybe like once a week in my meditation practice, I would visualize myself just getting destroyed on the mound. I'd put myself in base loaded situations, and I'd see the ball go in the gap, and the run, all three runs cash. And it wasn't a negative thing, because when I got back on the mound, it wasn't as big a deal. It's like I'd already been through that. You don't die when you give up runs, right? It's just not the end of the world, but you can make it really, really intense and fill with pressure if you allow it to be. So I would occasionally mix that into my meditation practice, and I just didn't freak out as much when I was in a pressure situation in the game. And I think there's value in that. I think there's value in, like, hey, I've failed before. I've gotten lit up before. I've given up grand slams before, and I still pitch the next day. Obviously in pro baseball, you can get released, and that again is a consequence that you want to just be like, at the end of the day, like, look, I'm going to go out there, I'm either going to get released after today or I'm not. But I'm just going to pitch my butt off no matter what, because if you let those thoughts invade you, and that's, and I felt that in my last year because I did get released. You feel that you're like, God, I got to pitch well today, or this might be it. Like it's been bad. I'm making a bad pattern. I need to turn it around, or my head could roll. Right? That's a very real thing. That's kind of the equivalent in baseball to the samurai. And you have to separate yourself from that. And at a certain point, I remember when I finally knew, like it got so bad, I was like, I'm gonna get released. Like it is what it is. Like it's just gonna happen. I like kind of can't come back from how I've pitched recently, but I'm still in the team and I still might pitch tonight. So screw it. I'm just gonna go out there and do what I can and just like shove it. You know what I mean? And that is a very positive mindset. And that's the mindset that I'm trying to advocate for in meditation on failure. Meditate, seeing yourself getting released, getting cut, doing all these negative things, do them in practice. And then when you get out there, you won't freak out as much. You won't have as much stress about those things because you realize, oh, it's not the end of the world, right? Sports are not the end of the world. And if we make them the end of the world, it only gets harder and it's way less fun, all right? So take this tip from, again, philosophy. The samurai are amazing people. I'm going to have more of this stuff coming out soon because we just can't get stuck in only our baseball bubble. We've got to take lessons from all over, and maybe this is right for you, maybe it's not. But it's something to fold into your mix and to think about and to potentially integrate into your mental training practice.